this is the tricky part with family, that there's so many other strings attached that growing up with certain people, they learn how to yank your chains. They know what buttons to push, and they know how to make you dance, whatever way emotionally. Being able to cut those strings means first you have to identify them and do one at a time. So eventually you're able to be more objective about the reality of a situation. And so, and this is what we talked a bit about this before, about the very first thing you have to learn is how to know the difference between your nefs and other people's nefs. And you have to own yours and say, no, thank you. Like Nancy Reagan, no, thank you to nefs, your nefs. I got enough of my own. Thank you very much. So learning how to do this in an effective and a way that is good adab is part of this. And the first thing, of course, is, you don't bring other people's nefs out because you don't want them to bring yours out. So there's a kind of social agreement that's unsaid, which is, I won't show yours if you won't show mine. It's kind of like under the surface.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah. It's a bit like, that sort of sounds like when you're getting to know someone or you meet someone for the first few times and you feel, just have a bit of an agreement of showing good adab, but not airing your dirty linen.
Yeah.
Ideally, anyway.
Yeah. And like we've learned in poker, you keep your hand to yourself. Yeah, otherwise it's not a game.
Something, if I may ask, sort of has come up, and talking about families recently, and something I've been sort of reflecting on. So sometimes when there has been, without being too specific, but a general grievance within a family environment or even friends environment, I go to, and someone's airing those grievances to me, I go to, a dub, or how can this one bring peace or resolution to this situation? So, and with certain individuals, sort of starting to realise that necessarily doesn't work. And what's come up for me is that not to judge, but seeing, like, for a certain individual, like I've seen, like he's coming in from a first maqam, which is, I need to be right. I want to be right. Don't tell me to listen to the other person. You need to agree with me. So I'm getting that in those situations, you're trying to find peace or trying to rationalise with an individual like that doesn't work. And it's almost like they just need you to listen to them. So I suppose in that situation, Sheikh, you don't go to the default of trying to, looking for peace within that situation or within that environment, or trying to talk to someone about finding some common ground. It's just about basically being there and listening to that person as they vent. Go on.
There is a way to listen where you're allowing the person to hear themselves.
Right.
We talk a lot about observation. The idea of observation means you are Allah's eyes and ears. You are observing from Allah's point of view. There's a way of turning that energy and kind of bouncing it back to the person who's talking so that they can begin to hear what they're saying. You don't have to do anything. There's no special equipment you need. It's just listening in a very active way that you're hearing, you're allowing them to hear what you're hearing. It's a kind of rabita. It's a kind of, here's what I'm hearing, but you don't have to say anything. There's no action that is observable on your part. You're listening, but bouncing it back. It's almost like therapy, but it's less intrusive, but in a way much more so, because here's what I'm hearing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm sort of getting a sense of like you're leading someone into an echo chamber. And just let,
Yeah.
Is it a bit like that, Sheikh? You just sort of let them,
Yeah, and the difficult part of this is you cannot be engaged or invested or have expectations of fixing them or anything. You are just there as Allah's witness. I am witnessing this person doing this. Allah will take care of this if he so wishes, but I am here because I'm the guy here. I'm the one that's in the place. I have the eyes and ears in service to Allah. So here you go. And if you do feel like you're being drawn in to the drama, you have to step back out and you go, I can't do this right now. Because you get twisted into it. And that's no good. That doesn't help anybody.
No, that's right. Yeah.
So this is one of those things of like, well, if you want there to be peace, you have to be it. In other words, you're in a place that's objective, you're grounded, you're centered, you're okay. You're happy with Allah, Allah's happy with you. There's a balance there. You're in a kind of readiness kind of posture, but you don't have to move or say anything. Because it's not your job to fix people. Though, as guys, we tend to have that first priority of like, I know what's wrong. Let me help you. I can fix this. Because we're problem solvers. That's what that's our kind of steady state, as it were. That's why we're here. We're here to fix and protect and make sure everything works. You know, when somebody comes to you and says, I don't work properly, you go, oh yeah, that's because you're an asshole. Yeah, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't help. Yeah, understanding that there is blood family and spiritual family. Your blood family, maybe you didn't ask for those specific kinds of people. Your spiritual family is the one that these are my real brothers and sisters here, but I have these blood sorts that have to be taken care of. And they have expectations of me, and I think I have expectations of them, and it'll play out. Salaam Alaykum. So, Rakaya, we are talking about how do you deal with family and people who are, what would you call it, Alameen? Kind of like burrs that stick on you and kind of get on your skin, and you kind of like, and to learn, okay, what's attaching me? to this person? What am I trying to do? And so I was just saying, as guys, we try to fix things. Women usually want to just suss things out, just schmooze it and feel it. Just get that feeling and share that feeling. I don't want you to fix me. I want you to feel what I'm feeling.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's why there's all this stuff between the genders. There's kind of like, why don't you understand what I'm talking about? Sorry, you're using words I understand, but they mean different things to me.
Definitely talking a different language, yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So learning that there's other ways to get there by what we're talking about, by observing rather than trying to fix or schmooze or anything, being sympathetic. You don't have to do any of that. What you have to do is be Allah's eyes and ears. What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I feeling in my heart? What does my heart say? Because the heart's going to tell you the truth. We're used to turning that off. We're used to saying, oh no, I'd rather not look at that. Can we please, let's put a filter over that and go, yes, I'm just a good girl. I'm just the fixer, or, whatever the, role you think you should be playing. So understanding that there's all these taboos and expectations. And as I started off by saying, there is the unsaid expectation that we're just, what did I say, Alamin? Do you remember? The unsaid?
The unsaid expectation that sometimes we're just, we're there to act as, the echo chamber. We're there just to bounce off, let them listen to themselves.
Yeah, but before that, Robert, do you remember?
I won't show you your nafs if you don't show me mine.
Thank you. That's the unsaid rule in polite, civilized conversation. We don't say, you annoy me. You never think about me. You always think about yourself. All you care about is whatever that thing is. So understanding that there is social conversation and then there's real conversation. There's talking about Allah, talking about truth, and talking about, related elements of Allah. And learning to stand your ground because you are with Allah. Allah is with you. You are protected if you stay with your heart. You also will have lots more patience. I think when we steer away from the heart is when we get nervous and anxious because we think we should be doing something. There's a lot of shoulds in there, and also learned adaptations of duty and responsibility and playing out whatever role you think you should be playing. Yes, does that make sense? So
Yes.
part of the awakening is realizing what role you are playing. It's funny. It's kind of like, oh, wait a minute, I just did that thing that I always do. And when you can step back enough through meditation and zikr and awareness, being present, it starts to become more and more available to see that that you aren't. English is so clumsy in these things. Sorry, that may not have sounded right. There's a you, just a second. There's a you, and then there's the real, the true you, the authentic you. The other you that I'm speaking of is the one that has all of the agglomerations of culture, family, and social responsibilities. Yeah, go ahead, please.
I think you just answered what I was going to ask, Sheikh. You just always said what I was just going to ask, is that sometimes there's a real discord within me, because especially with people who you care about and love, and who see them hurting themselves, and your sort of heart goes out because you want to help, and you want there to be peace, but it's just like what you said. I think part of that, or a lot of that, maybe is connected to your own story of conditioning and all the other stuff, as compared to the real you, which is not all the habits and attachments that maybe the real you can step away from that and understand with a bigger perspective, that sometimes, even though there are people such as family and friends that are hurting themselves and arguing, and you want there to be peace, but the bigger perspective is that maybe it's their journey and you've just got to get out of the way.
It's tricky, isn't it? Especially as you've been working on your nefs, it becomes a lot easier to see other people's nefs. And when that happens, it's kind of like, you're doing this and you're doing that, and you want to step in and like, I can fix you. And it's kind of like, sorry, what? I'm not broken. I'm not messed up, and I didn't ask you. And who told you that you have this wonderful, iconic way of saying things? I don't care. So what this requires, to be able to actually be able to help other people, which is Ansaris. The idea of the Ansaris is to be able to be of use and service to humanity, is to be able to, like I was saying before, about having enough peace within yourself to be able to stand your ground, to stand your place, and just to be present, to be aware and observant without investment and without expectation. That's a hard place to get to. That's work enough. But when you can get there and be able to have a perspective that everybody's on their own suluk, they're on their way to Allah in their own way, and they've chosen this way up to this moment. These are the choices they've made. How do you survive in this kind of carbonated nefs solution? And the way to do this is to understand, when Allah shows you when it's time, you will know. This is where that surrender and trust in Allah comes into play, because what is required for everybody, this is not just some or two people, everybody requires the right time and place and lesson to learn. And you're not in charge of that. That's not yours. We each have that available to us if we have our intention mind properly aligned. When that's aligned, then when it comes time to help someone, you will know the time and place is correct for this lesson, whatever it is, and to not even be invested in whatever the outcome is. You can't be invested in it. You can't think, well, I'm going to make this person better. No, because then it becomes about you, and that's defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's educational, but it's also challenging because, you know, Allah knows that, you know, there's so much of me involved in myself and trying to work all that out. But what I'm becoming, I don't know, more aware, or whether it's just happening at the time, there's just feels like there's a lot of people in my environment that are wounded and that are hurting and suffering. And as you say, Sheikh, it's choices and self-inflicted, but it's standing back and observing that. But yeah, knowing that trying to learn about oneself, and then, you know, if Allah wants you to know something or needs you to do something or know something, then that'll come through. But yeah, it's not a matter of saying, oh, you know, this person's hurting and wounded and, you know, sort of rushing to try and fix them, as you say.
Yeah, no, it's true. Everyone is in some state of chaos, pain, anxiety, or stress, and we have to start with ourselves if we're going to be of help to anyone. Otherwise, we're just putting petrol out there to be, you know, fired up again. It doesn't do any good. So it starts with ourselves, and we begin by putting out the fires in ourselves. Otherwise, we are an ongoing conflagration. So to do that, and that's what all the training is on the Sufi path, is to learn how to bring the fires under control. The fires have a purpose, and to channel them properly is part of the training as well, because the heat is what's going to burn the nafs out. But it has to be, you have to learn how to focus it and put it in the right energy field. You know, where's your focus? And that's one of the things that we talked about before. Wherever you put your focus, that is what you see, and that is what you become. This is kind of one of those, this is the truth. Whatever your focus is, that is what you become. If I want to study law, I'm going to study, you know, all the different precedents. I'm going to study the different cases and judgments, and I start to turn into this way of observation and perspective. And I start to see things in terms of justice, of right and wrong, of crime and restitution, and all the different things that make up law. But if I'm a doctor, I see it in this way. If I'm a mechanic, I'm going to see things this way. Those affect whatever we look at, we become. And whatever we become, we then take on those attributes. So what you seek is what you see. And thus, that's why I think in Sufism, when we look at, well, we'd like to focus on Allah because that's what connects everything. It's the axis on which everything moves through. Therefore, I have a theory that by focusing on Allah and that unifying factor unifies the neurophysiological system and the whole mind, body, and connection and heart into one unit, rather than all these separate units running around like a mad kindergarten. For Sufis, as I understand it, the idea of focusing on Allah and realizing that whatever you're looking at is Allah is one of the reasons why we say La ilaha illallah. There is nothing but Allah. There is no God but Allah. There is no other thing. The nafs are not Allah. There is only Allah. And by doing that, it kind of burns out all the other icons that we could be worshiping. Like, for example, I am so smart. I am so spiritual. I'm so stupid. I am so giving. I am so huggable. I am so wonderful. I am an idiot. I am my home. Isn't my home beautiful? Don't you love my home? Or whatever attachment or investment or identification that you have made that becomes a false idol, which means your energy is maintaining that when you could be connected with the universe. Instead, you decide you want to be connected with your car or your job or a tool or an event. It can become anything, but whatever you think of most, wherever your energy goes, becomes you. You become that. And therefore you're not this and now. That is how I understand it. So working on attaining a perspective that allows you to observe what's going on around you and see it as it is, that is the hakika, the reality, but in a loving way, that you see we're all on our own journeys, chariots of fire towards Allah.
My brain interpreted all of that as get hyper-focused on Allah.
Works for me.
Yep. Makes a lot of sense. Just finding, not necessarily in like a spiritual, I am amazing sort of, I am so spiritual, I read all the books, I do all the things sort of way, but like the focusing on Allah in us, in others, in the world. Yeah.
Bingo. Because that is what unifies us. That makes us a whole person. And when we can say, look, Allah, I'm not getting this lesson. Can you clarify what's happening? What am I supposed to be doing here? Then you and Allah are having a dialogue. That means that you and Allah have a friendship, a relationship, and that's how it should be. The trick is, once you ask the question, is to then
Listen.
Thank you. Yeah, or shut up first.
Yep.
And that's why we practice either meditation or any kind of quieting of the mind that allows us to just stop. Stopping is about the hardest thing to do in this culture, because this culture is all about go, 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 hydrate, run that marathon, just do it. And it's kind of like, what? Do what? Why? Because there's an emptiness there that we can't seem to fill. So just stay in motion. When the reality is, if you stop and begin to connect with Allah with your heart, the inner riches of that world within you become so much more fulfilling. And that means we can't sell you more. And thus advertisers and products do not like you to do that, because if you stop and think, You may not buy their product. So that's why consumerism as a religion works really well until you stop. Would you consider consumerism as a religion?
I think so.
Okay. I don't have anything else. It's nice to just kind of back up every once in a while and go, so what are we doing here? Why do we do all this? And it's good to just reflect and remember that we're doing this so that we can be a whole person, that we can unify and simplify these trillions of cells that make up this one and that one. Otherwise, they all tend to go off on their own little journeys, making it difficult to make any kind of decisions. Okay? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-sirata mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim. غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen.
Cool. Thank you, Sheikh. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Salaam
Shukran, Sheikh.
Alaykum.
Thanks,
Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Bye.
Salaam Alaykum, murids, seekers, curious, and interested listeners. We appreciate you and are happy to share our Sufi message. Your donation will help support our Sufi Center in Sydney, where we do zikr, sohbet, spiritual counseling, and healing services. We believe the message should be free, but it costs equipment, rental, services, software, and hardware to get this to you. So thank you for choosing our podcast among all the millions available. If you go to our website, AnsariSufiOrder.org, you will be able to donate through PayPal whatever you think this information is worth to you. Blessings and love, the Australian Ansari Sufi Order.